I'm Burt Lancaster. We're recording narration for the unknown war. Poland's long history has been one of turbulence and controversy. Situated in Central Europe, Poland was a geographical corridor for invasion and war. During World War II, Poland suffered enormously. 6 million Poles lost their lives. In 1939, Warsaw Radio played the Polonaise, a paradoxical classical background to plea for assistance to repel the Nazi invaders, 2 million strong. In 1943 and 1944, Warsaw again saw tragedy, suffering, and death during events of tragic circumstance. And even after Berlin fell to the Allies, Poles continued to die, liberating their town of Wrocław. In 1945, the Soviet armies forced the Nazis from Polish soil. Now our story, the liberation of Poland. It was a long war for the Poles, longer than for anyone else on the continent of Europe. Poles were still dying in Wrocław when in Berlin the fighting had ceased in May of 1945. Wrocław was finally taken by the Red Army on May the 8th. The liberation of Poland cost the Red Army 600,000 lives. The German occupation and the fight against the Nazis cost the Poles 6 million. Memorial Day in Poland, year after year, they light the candles again, for their own and for the Russian dead. On June 22, 1941, using Poland as a springboard, Hitler launched his attack on the Soviet Union across the disputed borderlands of Belarusia and the Ukraine. The Poles who had escaped the Nazis in 1939 had formed a government in exile in London. At its head was General Władysław Sikorski. Tens of thousands of Polish soldiers had been in Russia ever since the Red Army had crossed Poland's border and entered its eastern provinces in 1939. They were commanded by General Anders, whose sympathies lay with the London Poles. Relations between Anders and the Soviets were strained. The Poles had been armed and equipped by the Red Army, but because of continued delays by Anders, they had yet to enter battle on the Soviet side. Anders wanted the Polish army to fight with the Western Allies, and Churchill supported him. Stalin finally agreed that Anders' army could leave for the west, by way of Iran. While the Battle of Stalingrad was raging in mid-1942, 100,000 strong, they began their long journey to a home many of them would never reach. London Poles and the Soviet government were bad. In April of 1943, Goebbels soured them completely. He announced that the bodies of thousands of Polish officers had been found in the Katyn forest near Smolensk. They had been shot, he claimed, by the Soviets. The London Poles believed that Goebbels' version might be true. In response, the Soviet government broke off diplomatic relations. Meanwhile, within the Soviet Union, a second Polish force was formed, the Kosciuszko Division.
Przysięgam wierność sztandarowi mojej dywizji i hasłu ojców naszych.
Was followed by three more, armed by the Soviets. Unlike Anders' army, they were to fight on the Eastern Front. Under General Berling, the Kosciuszko Division received its baptism of fire in the late summer of 1943 at the village of Lenino on the road to Smolensk. In September 1943, the Red Army recaptured Smolensk from the Nazis, and with it the forests of Katyn. In January 1944, a Soviet committee assembled at Katyn to investigate the Polish tragedy, the massacre of 16,000 Polish officers. Dr. Burdenko, chief surgeon of the Red Army, performed the autopsies. His colleagues included the Metropolitan, Archbishop Nicholas of Moscow, and the author, Alexei Tolstoy. Among the Western observers was Kathleen Harriman, daughter of the United States ambassador.